Hi, and welcome to Knitting on the Float. My name is Tracy, and I'm your host. I am coming to you from a beautiful sunny afternoon in the Vancouver area. I looked at the outside temperature a few moments ago, 9 degrees Celsius. That's the warmest it's been in a couple of weeks. We've even had snow here the past week, so to see 9 degrees, that was a breath of fresh air. And I'm thinking soon we will be having cherry blossoms and spring will look like it is on its way. Just before our snowfall, I did see some snowdrops up on the land, and that was definitely exciting. So looks like things are getting a little bit warmer, although I did see that we might have some more snow in the forecast, which is so strange for the Vancouver area. I hope that wherever you are starting to experience lovely weather, and whether that is seeing spring thaw happening, or whether that is, if you're in the southern hemisphere, some autumn leaves perhaps starting to happen. I hope that you are enjoying your weather. This week, I have a few things to share. I've gotten up to knitting mainly on one project, but I do have a few other finished projects to share, so I'm excited to do that. But before I do, let me tell you where you can find me. I am Tracy RR on Ravelry, and I am at Knitting on the Float on Instagram. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. This is a podcast where most of the time I chatter about the knitting that I've gotten up to for the past week. And this week, it's mainly about this type of knitting, but there is a little bit of other knitting that I will be sharing too, so welcome. And if you are a returning viewer, welcome back. I know you have your spot either on the couch or the red chairs or somewhere else. You are getting comfy, cozy. If you're feeling a bit chilled, maybe you've got that lovely blanket pulled up. I know you definitely have your project of choice and a wonderful beverage. So, without further ado, let's get into some tea time where we can share what beverages we are drinking. And today for me, hot tea, my favorite. And I don't think I have shared this mug on the podcast before. This is called Orangutangle. It is one of my Rendale design mugs. And where most of the Rendale design mugs are smaller, this is one of the larger size. So I think most of them are 11 ounces, and this is a 14-ounce size. So it's a little bit bigger, but oh, orangutans cuddling. And then there is one just in here with my tea. Wondering what I'm drinking today? Looks like plain tea. For the most part it is, but it is decaf. When I was in England in November and December, we went to Marks & Spencer and I picked up a box of Marks & Spencer decaf tea. And I will tell you, the past couple of weeks, I have really been trying to cut back on my caffeine. So I've been having one lovely caffeinated beverage a day, and then I've been switching over to the decaf. It is now Thursday afternoon, and I usually record late Thursday morning, and I had some visitors, and then I was on a phone call for a while, so we are starting a little bit later. And my visitor this morning, we had some caffeinated tea. So I'm now on my second warm beverage of the day, but this time we are into the decaf. So, bit of a change in today's routine. I think we will cheer to being able to adapt and go with the flow. Cheers to that, because flying by the seat of your pants is always an important thing to be able to do. Most of the time I start off with my projects that I'm working on, and then I end off with those finished projects. This week I'm going to change things up a bit, fly by the seat of my pants, and I'm going to share my finished objects, and then I will share the object that has gotten the most attention from me this week. So, first finished object I'm going to share is, this is not a project bag, this is a compression bag, and from Mountain Equipment Co-op. And in the summertime, we bought some compression bags to put our clothes in when we went on our summer holiday. And I have popped something in here because earlier this week, Greg was hoping to fly to the Toronto area and was going to spend some time with his family. And he was supposed to bring this with him. The fact that it is here with me means that Greg's flight was canceled, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Anyway, I was busy on the sock knitting machine, and I have several pair of circular sock machine finished socks to share with you. So this fun pair, and this I believe was fondant fibers, and the colorway was Meridian. So lovely greens, blues, and whites. And then I used this skein of, I believe this was Miss Babs, and this was called Quicksilver. And this was a skein that I had bought to be used alongside these minis that are in this project bag. This project got no love this week. This is a test knit, but the minis that were in here were originally going to be used with this yarn to make an On the Spice Market shawl. I used my Loop of London kit using Shalimar Airy for that On the Spice Market shawl, so I didn't feel the need to do another one, and because I was using the minis in another project, I thought these will make a lovely pair of socks, and I definitely think they do. This was a Lorna's Laces special colorway called Yorkshire Skies, and I shared these, I think, last week on the podcast. And these are now blocked, so I soaked them, put them on the my blockers, my sock blockers, the Bryce Spun ones. But because they had been shoved into the compression bag, they're maybe not quite as lovely flat as they had been. Anyway, I shared these last week. This is Yorkshire Skies by Lorna's Laces, and those have knit up really nicely. And I have made a shorty pair, and I think I had one of the shorty pairs done, and I now have both of them. So little ankle socks and full-length socks. And then the final, these ones are fun. This is called Orange is the New Black, and this was a Lorna's Laces colorway, and definitely fun there. And I love how these have knit up, kind of like a Tony the Tiger kind of look as well. But this is Orange is the New Black, and 5 pairs of socks done on the sock machine, put in here, and they will hopefully get to their destination later this month. We are now in March, later in March. Next project. So I have another finished project, and this is living in my, what I call my Holiday Road bag, and this is a bag by Bird Leg Bags, a lovely little cube, not a cube, a box bag, and rectangle. And I started these in the summer on our summer holiday, and I'll get my remaining yarn. The interesting thing, I used Scrumptious Pearl yarns, and I've found with all of the balls, there's not really a whole lot left after I knit a pair of socks on by hand on with this base. This is Scrumptious Pearl. It's the Glam base, or is it Glam It Up? No, it's Glam. The regular without stellina is called Stripe It Up, I think, or Stripe Me Up. And this is Birdie's Bots. So lots of fun colors in there. Hopefully you don't get rotten egg. I think these were all pretty lovely. And I have now finished, and I haven't blocked them yet, my just vanilla socks that I cast on in the summer. I have used a 1x1 twisted rib for my cuff, straight vanilla down. On the back, I have done an Eye of Partridge heel. For my heel turn, I have done a half kerchief, I think it is, or kerchief heel. It's not focusing. And lovely gusset along the side here, straight through the foot, and then a barn toe. So I now have 2 socks done, and one the front and then one the side. I do need to block them, but I'm just happy to have them off the needles and be able to share those with you. So I finished those on Monday. As we were driving to the airport, I grafted the toe, and nice to have a set of needles free, especially sock needles. I've got so many of them, but lots of them are still on sock projects. Anyway, that is there, needs to be blocked and then put in my box of socks. So this week, lots and lots of socks got worked on, but I do have one more project that got quite a bit of attention this week, and that is living in my gorgeous bunny bag. There's bunnies on here and squirrels. I don't know if is there a fox on here? No, I think it's just squirrels and bunnies in this one. The inside of my other bag, this one here that got no love, I believe there are foxes and bunnies on the inside of this one, making sure I'm only showing you the inside fabric and nothing more. This week, I need to pay attention to my test knit, but I really, really want to get this project off the needles. This project is my Morticia sweater, and Morticia is a pattern by Andi Satterlund. I am so sad to say it is no longer available for purchase, but it is a wonderful, wonderful design, and that was part of Andi Satterlund's Spooky collection, which was released a couple of years ago, I think in around Halloween 2019. I am using this beautiful Nora George yarns, and this is Cloud Decay, and the colorway is called Sweet Pea. Beautiful colors. This is 70% alpaca, 20% silk, and 10% cashmere, and it is so, so soft. I'm a little bit worried it might stretch, but it's been really lovely to work with. And my Morticia sweater is coming along beautifully, and I'm going to try and show you what I can a little bit differently. I am now through the body, so I have bound off the body. I have put my neckline on, and I tried it on, and I'm really loving how the neckline looks. Now, I had a little bit of difficulty when I was picking up stitches. There were quite a few to pick up, and I had a couple more than I was supposed to, but because it was a 1x1 rib, as long as I had an even number, it was okay. Problem is, I got to the end, and I was going to be one round shy of my ribbing, which was okay. I literally needed this much more yarn in order to bind off completely. So I was this much short. I was casting off, so it wouldn't have been easy to throw in another skein of yarn. So what did I do? I just pulled it all back, and I ended up putting less stitches on than was called for, and I'm actually really quite pleased with how it has turned out. Now, I have picked up one side for the sleeve. So here, this one doesn't have a sleeve yet. I cannot wait to share this with you. I am absolutely in love with this sleeve. And I have to be careful that I don't accidentally knock my stitches off. So let's hold this up. So right there, neckline's on, hem's on, and this sleeve has been started, and it's a lovely balloon sleeve done in mesh, and the sleeve cap was all done with short rows in the mesh, and I'm now just doing many, many rows of this mesh pattern, which is a bit, I'm loving how it's knitting up, but it is taking longer than I want it to. So I'm getting a little bit restless because I want to get this one done and this one on, and I want to wear this yesterday because this is going to be such an amazing sweater. And oh my goodness, look at how gorgeous this is. I cannot wait to get this off the needles so I can try it on, and oh, I absolutely love it. And in this Sweet Pea colorway, it is so just delicate and fun. And as I said, I really love how the neckline is falling. So we'll see how it is after blocking. I'm a little bit worried because of the alpaca. I was very naughty and I did not swatch. I know. Bad Tracy. Anyway, loving, loving, loving how this sleeve is looking on this sweater. And I will tell you, I am loving this so much, I'm already contemplating at some point knitting another one of these. So I will pop this back in. Now I will mention about, the nice thing about Andi Satterlund's pattern for this is she actually has it detailed out in how many, for each size, you're told how many rows to do. So where some patterns it's that measurement, and I talked about with the counter, you can kind of figure out how many rows you need to do so that the counter can be your friend rather than a tape measure. This one, the pattern is all sort of counted out for you. She's done all the math, and you do a certain amount of repeats to get you through. So for my sleeve, I will be doing 120 rounds from where I left off from the short rows and then going into the sleeve. So that 120 rounds has already been mathematically figured out for me. And perhaps if I had done a swatch, that probably would have been a better thing. But as I said, I tried it on. I'm happy with it at this moment unblocked, but of course, blocking will bring out the full magic. And I already think this looks dreamy, this sleeve. Can you imagine once it is blocked, how amazing that mesh is going to look? Because water is magic. Anyway, that is what is in here. I mentioned that I was thinking about doing a second. And what I am thinking of doing, and I'll pull out one of the knitting drawers. Oops. My goose eggs quilt. Oh, it's actually not the goose eggs quilt that caught the drawer. It's my box of Mindful Kids that has caught the drawer. I originally purchased this yarn to knit a sweater, but I didn't know which sweater I was going to knit. And then another project came along and I decided that I was going to use this yarn for that project instead of a sweater. But I love the pink version of the Morticia, but I also absolutely love this darker version of the Morticia. And this is also a Nora George Yarns. This is Slate, and this is a Merino DK. I think it is, it's 100% superwash merino, so no nylon in it. And I have had this project on the needles for quite some time. And if you've tuned in before, you may have seen it, but you would have seen it a very, very long time ago. This is my Gathering Driftwood wrap. This was a pattern from, I believe, the 2019 Knitvent, and it was a test, or actually, I don't think it wasn't from Knitvent. It was from the last Shawl Society, and I believe it was released in October of 2019, just when I was starting to also do the Knitvent test patterns. Look at that, I've got a cute little Corner of Craft owl on here. This has been on here for quite some time. This is 20% finished. I absolutely love the look of this wrap. However, knitting all the cables has been a bit of a challenge. And I've also got that owl on there too. And I renamed this shawl my Gathering Dust shawl. So Gathering Driftwood turned into Gathering Dust because it has been, I think, probably close to one of my longest whips. Not spin on the needles, just way, way too long. So as I was knitting on that gorgeous sleeve yesterday, I was thinking that I might frog my Gathering Driftwood wrap and repurpose this gorgeous slate yarn and knit another Morticia. However, I am not going to just rip the needle out. Oh, and that's where my other blockers are. Ha, I was wondering where those were. I'm not just going to rip it out and start pulling, because once I start doing that, I'm pulling the whole thing out. I think I will think on it a little bit longer. I have considered frogging this pattern a few times. It's such a lovely, lovely pattern. However, it is so intricate, and it's just a matter of, do I put my nose to the grindstone and finish it off? Or do I say, you know what, I originally purchased this yarn to make a sweater and loving the Morticia. I will at least wait until I finish my Morticia and, you know, maybe worn it a little bit before I do anything rash. The other thing I thought I could do, because I think I've got a few skeins. I've got 4 skeins in here. Actually, I've got 3 skeins, plus I've got a 4th skein upstairs that hasn't been wound. I think I had originally bought 7 of these. So it is possible. I think I'm alternating these 2 right here. I could continue doing a little bit more and then turn this into a cowl, and it would be a beautiful cowl. I'll have to think on it. Beautiful yarn. As I said, it is a beautiful pattern. It's just, I don't know when I will get back to it. Not anytime soon. So in the meantime, I will finish my pink Morticia, my Sweet Pea Morticia, and I will think on whether I really want to frog this project and repurpose the yarn. We'll see. Could go either way. Anyway, this is going back in the whip drawer along with a couple of the other long-standing whips and my Mindful Kids, along with my yoga pretzels. I need to do some of those. And at some point, I will make that decision. But for now, I just need to work on my Morticia. There is one more thing to share on the couch today, and it is a brown paper package that the mailman brought for me not yesterday or today, but at the end of last week. So this has been sitting unopened on the knitting table since late last week because I wanted to share this wonderful parcel with you, the opening of it. So we have a true brown paper package on this segment today, and this is going to be a wonderful, wonderful parcel because it is from Jane of Hedgerow Yarns. If you've ever had a Hedgerow Yarns package before, you will know how special a parcel from Jane is. So I knew I just had to share on the podcast the opening of this parcel. Now I'm going to need to be very, very careful because it is very, very well taped, and I just need to be a little bit cautious. So let's get to this, and I may need to use some scissors when I get to the little section of tape, but I can probably do that fairly safely, and I can because I just need to cut across the tape, put my fingers there. Don't cut fingers, that would be a not so good idea, especially when you love to craft. Cutting your fingers is one of the worst things because then you have sore fingers, and those are my fears. Cutting fingers, broken arms, broken hands, because that would affect my knitting big time. So I now have the parcel partially opened, and we are now to the next layer. This one's a little easier. I don't have to worry about ripping and cutting tapes. Okay, so in this parcel, oh my goodness, there are lots of lovely little wrapped packages, and they're done up with lovely washi tape and a lovely Hedgerow Yarns card, which has a little message on the back for me. And there's a lot of yarn that was put in here. There's also this. I'm interested about that one. So I have, oh my gosh, they smell so good. Smell-o-vision, I wish. Anyway, here are all my little lovelies, and I'm just going to open two of them that the washi tape has, put the washi tape back on. It's opened. And in here I have some gorgeous mohair silk. I just went with the naked undyed because I knew I needed it for this project, and I'm hoping to use this and possibly the other thing that I purchased at some other point during the year. Now let's see. This is going to be the hard part, is figuring out what's mohair and what is not. And Scout. Oh, Scout, you just sat on Jane's package. Naughty Scout here. And the other thing I purchased, so I purchased 4 skeins of mohair, and I purchased 4 skeins of Silk Cloud. This is Surrey silk, and I just wanted to have basically 2 different types of yarn that I could hold double with other projects. Just gives it a lovely loft, that extra little bit of oomph, and I absolutely love how holding either mohair or Surrey silk goes with a project. I have held Surrey silk double on my Tiddly Palm neck snuggler, and that is just something I've really enjoyed wearing this year. And I've also held a colored, a dyed version of Hedgerow mohair with my Snuggle Down cowl. Both of those are patterns by Jules Hill. So I have 4 skeins of mohair, 4 skeins of Surrey silk and lots of lovelies to unwrap a little bit later. But I just wanted to share what I got. And then there's this mystery. So I'm excited to see what this is. Something unexpected. A parcel from Jane, as I said, is always so wonderful. It smells delicious. I don't know what she puts with her yarn, but her yarns always come with wonderful packaging, beautiful washi tape. Each of those skeins was individually wrapped. And what do we have? Look at that gorgeous washi tape. Do we have here? Oh my goodness! And there's a little heart with a little card, and Jane has knit me up some wrist warmers. Oh, lovely. And that is beautiful. Oh goodness. And they are held double with some mohair, I think. And they smell so lovely. And oh my goodness, aren't they absolutely beautiful? As I said, a parcel from Jane is always so wonderful. And mine came with a lovely little bonus wrist warmer, which will be great as I am working away in this bit of colder weather we've been having on my wonderful Morticia sweater. Anyway, that is a pretty wonderful brown paper package, and I was definitely happy to open that with you today. It's now time for Bits and Bobs, and this is my segment where I talk about anything and everything not necessarily knitting related. The sun has disappeared. I don't know whether it's gone for the day or whether it will return a little bit later, but it's a little gray now. That's okay. At least it's still warmer than it was earlier in the week. Talking about earlier in the week, I did mention that Greg and I were expecting him to fly to the Toronto area, and he was going to spend a bit of time with his family. He's going to spend a few days away, and unfortunately, as we were driving to the airport, we got a text message and we discovered that Greg's flight had been canceled. So unfortunately, my beautiful sock gift and Greg's visit will have to wait. So we have rebooked him, and he will go at the end of March back to Toronto. And this time we're going to have him go out of Vancouver Airport rather than out of Abbotsford, because A, it won't take as long for us to get there, and if the flight is canceled, if I were to have turned around and left him out there, I would have gotten all the way home, and then it would have been a bit of a nightmare. At least at YVR, the international airport here, he can jump on the transit and come home if he is canceled, but we will see. I kept my eye on that flight. I just had a feeling it was going to be canceled, and I kept my eye on it all day long. And it turned out that we were running actually 20 minutes later than we were supposed to be. I should have dropped him off 2 hours before his flight. We got there, we got the news about 5 o'clock that the flight had been canceled, but the email from the airline didn't come in till 5:19. So we were supposed to be there at 20 to 5, 4:40. At 5:19, they sent an email telling everybody the flight had been canceled. They had put it up on the website earlier than that, about 5 o'clock, I think, maybe 10 after 5. So we get to the airport because we wanted to ask a few questions, and we were so close to find all these people just finding out that the flight had been canceled. So I'm sure some of them had already gone through security. It was definitely disappointing that the flight had been canceled, but the weather had been a little bit iffy all day, so I wasn't fully surprised. It had been really, really heavy snow here on Monday, but when we got out to Abbotsford, it was perfectly clear. So A little bit strange that they didn't let us know earlier, especially since they had canceled the plane coming in from Hamilton, Ontario, and I was keeping an eye on that one too, and it looked as though it had been fine and the flight looks like it had taken off, but apparently it got canceled too. So I'm not sure whether it was canceled before takeoff and they had put people on the plane and then got them off, or whether it had taken off and then they had to return. So not sure what happened. All I know was we came back home with Greg and with the compression bag of socks, and but we have rebooked them, so that is good. The interesting thing about living on the West Coast is you never know what the weather is going to be like. Just a moment ago, the sky opened up and it is now pouring with rain. So when I first started podcasting, it was beautiful, it was sunny. I was thinking it was going to be gorgeous. It then clouded over, and now buckets of rain. Monday, big, heavy, fat flakes of snow that stayed on the ground for quite some time until today. And we were also having big hunks of snow fall off the roof. That was a bit disconcerting. You just hear this noise and then you hear a splash, and with the pitch of our roof, the snow was falling into the river. You never know what to expect around here. Anyway, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Not too much has been happening on the river. We did have very wintry days, so while some of the dredging that was starting to happen last week, was happening and they were bringing a few barges full of sludge, they haven't really brought as much as I thought they would have, and maybe that's to do with the weather. Who knows? Anyway, I think for this week it's about Greg's canceled flight and the weather, and that's all I think I've got for bits and bobs this week. Thank you so much for joining me on Knitting on the Float this week. I hope that you've had a chance to sit back and relax while I have shared the projects that I have been working on this week. Shared a beautiful, beautiful brown paper package, which smells so, so gorgeous. It's been a good week. Anyway, I am wishing you the most wonderful, wonderful, relaxing week ahead. I hope that whatever project you are working on, you are loving it as much as I am loving my Morticia sleeves. I am hoping that next week I will have my Morticia fully complete. I have a feeling the sleeves are going to take a lot of my energy and a little bit of my concentration, because even though it's a 4-pattern repeat, I do have to pay attention. But oh my goodness, when it is done, I'm so excited to be able to share that with you. Well, I will see you next Thursday. And in the meantime, I am sending you lots of happy crafting thoughts, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye. When I was opening my brown paper package, I didn't realize I dropped something. My little tiny lavender sachet. And in years past, when I have purchased things from Jane, there's always a lovely little lavender sachet, which smells so beautiful. And Nathaniel would always love when a package arrived from Jane, because he would claim the lavender sachet. I don't think I'm telling him that this arrived, because this one is all mine.